Okay, gonna get started here, guys. Good morning, happy Thursday. Just want to get your video back on, we're getting started. And here we go. All right, so vocab lesson 5, that was due last night, that has been checked. Get my book ready here, we can kind of go over that in a minute. If you want to grab that vocab book, if you don't already have it handy. Grammar lesson 10, due by tonight. I believe it's on prepositions. And then we're gonna let Lauren in real fast here. Then we will continue looking at the research process. Okay, so continuing to think about possible topics. Okay, we'll look back at that Jamboard because fourth bell added a lot more useful stuff. And kind of think about more possible topics. We'll learn how to research the internet for things like this. And I'm going to talk through a slide presentation that will probably look familiar to you, since just about all of you, if not all of you, attended that summer camp, right? And we kind of had your first foray into research through that using some of the library sources and different databases and stuff. So I'll also introduce you to EasyBib, which you also took a look at over at the summer camp. It's a service you can go to, go ahead and start using to make works cited entries for your sources as you find them. There's no requirement yet for a works cited page or anything like that, or even formal entries. But if you're finding articles already that you're like, well, I'm definitely going to use this, then if you go ahead and make one and start up a Google Doc and kind of paste them in there, then you're halfway to making your works cited page and you're saving yourself a lot of work later. So again, no big assignment page or assignment document or rubric yet. We're just kind of taking the first few steps. We'll get into more kind of formalized requirements next week. So using these resources in our previous discussion, we want to work on selecting a topic with at least 2 sources by Sunday night, and there's a Google form posted for you to fill out. I'll get back to that later. So let's backtrack and take a look at the vocab real fast. I'm going to come off my screen share. Got that handy, easy participation here. Lesson 5. So our words are jaded, gist, advocate, efface, charisma, ogre, mesmerize, entity, bandy, and dastardly. Sounds like great possibilities for a creative usage for next week. Usual schedule. And we'll finish up this unit neatly at the end of next week, and then we just have the 2 days before Thanksgiving. Unless something happens and we're remote. I don't know, we'll see. So how about number 1 in lesson 5? Can someone unmute, tell us what you got? Alex, go ahead. Thank you.
Advocates, gist, memorizes, charisma, and efface.
Good job. Advocates, it's a gist, like do you get the gist of this? Mesmerizes, charisma, and efface. Nice job. Number 2, somebody else? Number two. Get those videos on, folks. We got like almost a half dozen people with their video off. Elizabeth, I thought you were raising your hand, but I guess you're just adjusting your hair. Oh, well. Yeah, go ahead. Thanks.
Jaded, bandy, dastardly, entity, ogre.
I think the last 2 probably mixed up. I cannot believe it's such an unsportsmanlike. Yeah, they could both sort of fit in there.
Oops.
And I see what you mean by horrid. That would almost match better with ogre. Those are almost kind of interchangeable, I guess. But if we're going to say Meyer could not believe such an unsportsmanlike entity was allowed to compete, it's ogre is a little bit closer to calling someone a person. So I can see how we'd mix those up, but probably ogre and then entity. Easy mistake, not even hardly a mistake. All right, sentence completion. Anybody have anything they can share? It doesn't matter which one. Number 2, number 10, number 7, whatever. Nobody? Nothing? All right, be shy, fine. Exercise 3. Okay, on our roots. So generic would mean relating to an entire group or kind. Generate would be to produce. C, fortify is to strengthen. D, fort is just a strong place. E, a monologue is a speech made by one person. And F, graphic is just something that's written or drawn, mostly drawn. Anybody feel like they got number 2? Alex, is that a hand?
Ability and forte.
Forte is the second one. The first one, it's kind of a similar, sort of similar meaning, but it's fortitude is the word that still has that root in there. Fortitude. I'm gonna let Roman in here. Okay, number 3, that's going to be generation and genetics, or maybe even genes. Either one would fit. And then some other words are spectrograph, photograph, geography, general, genre, which is spelled G-E-N-R-E, generous, words like that. Anybody have an inference they could share? Last section. Okay. Moving on from vocab, creative usage to Monday night as usual. Always knock that out ahead of time. All right, so let's take a look at research stuff. I'm gonna go back to my screen share. Okay, let's go back to that Jamboard first. See if I still have that open. I might not. Let me stop my screen share for a sec. I'll get that back open. Hold on just a sec. Bear with me. Okay, here's how that's looking right now. LGBTQ rights, plenty of material there. You probably want to, narrow that down. It's always good if you can I'm not going to absolutely insist on it, but I think that it's always good if you can make these as local as possible. It's just a good way to narrow it. People not wearing masks correctly, not all. Anything having to do with the whole mask phenomenon, I think is fair game. I think you can write about it in such a way where it's not changing that much, right? Although there was an interesting study that came out recently that has confirmed the information that, let me see if I can get this straight. Before, the research was showing that it was definitely keeping people from spreading, right? Like it wasn't necessarily protecting you a ton, but it was keeping anybody who might be carrying the virus from spreading. But a more recent, pretty comprehensive study I'm hearing is confirming that it indeed protects people from getting it to a pretty large degree too, like 50 to 70% more safe from contracting it if you have like some sort of cloth mask. So that's interesting, reassuring. Could be food for thought in that topic. All right, so heroin drug use. You have to be careful with topics like that because pretty much everyone agrees that heroin is horrible and that heroin is a problem. And we've got one of the worst problems, especially in northern Kentucky, like Newport and Covington. But you got to figure out a way to argue that in such a way where there's an opposing argument, right? So there's not enough being done about it. There's too much money being quote unquote wasted on it. Depends on whatever position you want to take, but make sure it's arguable, right? That it needs to be defensible, that there's an opposing argument. Same thing with people littering, right? Nobody's gonna argue the other side and say, hey, littering's fine, right? Got to figure out a way to argue that. What is it? Yeah, where you need to defend it against an opposing argument. Okay, the whole pro-life versus pro-choice thing. If you can kind of narrow that maybe to what's going on in Ohio with that, because it is kind of a with what kind of abortion laws there are, it is state to state. Okay, so as far as like the availability, I guess I'd say it's not illegal anywhere, but it's a lot more available in some places and then hardly available in other places. Let's see. Talked about most of these, rest of these in class yesterday. Extended school days for children to widen pickup times for parents. That's an interesting, really specific topic there. Police brutality against African Americans. definitely some stuff you could do there that kind of fits in with the Black Lives Matter movement and that whole area of issues and riots, all it's kind of connected. So you want to try to choose something specific within that. Okay, now there's plenty of other things you could be choosing. So let's look back at the resources I'm giving you. Okay, so we have an assignment up called Argumentative Research Topic. And your assignment is to use the Google Slides presentation to help you use resources to find good sources for your paper. So resources are places to go to find what we actually call sources, which are actual, for the most part, articles or websites you use for your paper. You can consider using EasyBib to go ahead and make works cited entries. But what you really need to do in the assignment for now, it doesn't say a due date here, but the due date is by Sunday night. Complete this Google form by Sunday night. I think it does say that within the actual Google form. Okay, so what I want you to be able to do, put your name in here. This is just so I can form an easy, sheet of the information. Put what your topic is. And then these three other questions. How and why is your issue a significant problem? What opposing argument can you acknowledge, and then how would you refute it? And then I do want you to list a couple sources that you found just to show that you're on the right track, that you're finding some stuff. They do not have to be MLA works cited entries yet. Okay, they can just be a URL, a link to where it is online. Okay, so that's fine. And then you submit that, okay, by Sunday night. So you can't just do that now. You got to start looking around. So let's take a look at this thing here. Now, I'm not going to read through this whole thing. You've seen it before. It's posted here for you. But you kind of flip through it just to kind of show you the type of information we have in here. Okay, first page here. Learn to conduct academic research is an important skill. Learn where to look is half the battle. So we have these databases like Info Ohio, the public library in general, if you have a public library card. There are search engines, but rather than go just to Google, there's one called Google Scholar, okay, which is going to limit, it's going to keep out more kind of commercial entertainment type sites and stick more to reliable journalistic and educational sites. So that's a good way to just kind of have everything in your search show up as something that you could probably use, as opposed to just regular Google where you're going to get, all kinds of other crap. Okay, things related to science, arts here. We're probably not going to use books here, right? We're not going to the library, obviously. We don't do that a whole lot anymore anyway for research. It's mostly online. Okay, there's a video here created by the librarians at Kent State University. It's an explanation of Info Ohio in general and some resources within that. That's probably one of the main places that you'd want to go. Okay, more explanations of the public library, something called the Ohio Web Library, another digital research that's free to Ohio residents. It does require either a public library card or an Info Ohio login. Sweet Search, InfoTrack, and Infotopia are fantastic academic search engines that are made by educators and subject experts for student research. So like it says here, filtering out the junk. If you use these things, you're going to find things that are acceptable sources, right? Then it has some basic instructions about search engines in general. Try to use the right keywords and things like that. It is important to carefully evaluate websites to see if they meet certain criteria. If a website is not credible and reliable, it should not be used as a resource. And there's a video here that you can watch to kind of review. I think you can use your common sense in a large way to find reliable sources, but it might not be a bad idea to look at. Okay, get out of that. And finally, let me show you EasyBib, because it's a great idea to go ahead and do it. If you start finding some article, you're settled on your topic already. Tomorrow we're going to have a work day. Okay, so I'm not going to hold like a quote unquote required live session. I'm going to have a session and you can be there, but I'm not just going to like talk through the agenda and stuff. You guys are going to work. If you want to work on your own, you don't have to come. If you want to come and just sit there silently with your video off and work on looking for articles and maybe ask me questions at some point, then that's fine. You can come in the middle to ask me a question, whatever you want to do. But what I've done here is, okay, so if you just Google EasyBib, here's what comes up. Okay, so here's the main thing: EasyBib, free bibliography, MLA, and MLA is the style we always want to choose. Just you guys learned all this in summer camp. If you just go straight to this, it'll take you right to the part of EasyBib that is for making an MLA format works cited entry. Okay, so again, a works cited entry, in case you're a little rusty, is a little set of information that lists your sources as the last page of your paper when we finally do our research paper. Okay, so rather than go back and do it later, if you do it as you find your sources, it's less work to do later. So you can put in, you don't have to put in all these things. You can put in as many as you can figure out: article title, name of the author, website title, definitely the URL. By putting in the specific URL, sometimes that's all you need to put. And then it'll say complete citation. You hit that button, it creates the citation. You copy it from here, you paste it into your document, you're done. Okay, so you don't have to figure out where everything goes and where all the periods and commas go. That's ancient history, right? You probably know that. All right. Anybody have questions? Anybody have a topic they want to ask me about right now before we leave? Or you could always email me, chat me, or whatever. Okay, so only thing that's due tomorrow is grammar. And then other than that, we should just be working on settling on that topic, find a few sources, and by Sunday night, you know, have it decided and fill out that exit ticket. Okay, so if I don't see you tomorrow, have a great weekend. And otherwise, I'll see you for some work time tomorrow. Bye-bye.